Senator Heitkamp.
Yeah, Mr. Keating, just not to belabor the point, there are two different perspectives on taxation of capital gains.
Well, there are
As
many
you know.
perspectives.
Yeah, well, I think it's difficult for someone like me to explain to a worker at Bobcat who puts on a shirt every day and gets dirty, and that he pays more than people living on trust funds. So I think it's important that we kind of talk about who is that person who has made these investments and what's their long-term contribution. I think we all want to give contributions to people who are actually increasing the productivity of this country. Unfortunately, in many cases, capital gains, the people who are wealthy enough to have capital gains are the people who, where the money makes the money and not the productivity. And you know, we can get into a long economic argument.
Sit down in
about,
your office and have a good chat.
I don't want to take up my time. I would love to have that debate, because I think that I don't disagree with the conversation you just had with Senator Scott, that there's got to be some way to incentivize investment and entrepreneurship.
To get the productivity
Right.
you're talking about.
I might argue that one of the reasons why you see a decline is the increasing interest rates and burden put on young entrepreneurs by the challenges that they have, which includes student debt. So I don't want to.
Yep.
I want to know in your numbers when you're looking at investment, which is fascinating, because I think it tells a story that's not well understood in the American public. Do we have a differential? Have you broken it out by rural communities or rural counties versus urban counties?
I have not, but others have,
Yeah.
and I can get you that information.
That would be great.
Yeah, the rural, that's where we're suffering in terms of entrepreneurship investment, without a doubt, and certain inner city communities. But
Yeah.
those are the areas that are being hit hardest, that are still kind of, if you will, stuck in the recession
Right.
in many ways.
What I always tell people is I do something that a lot of people here don't do, which is represent rural America, because, and I know Senator Rounds and I have joined on a lot of this, but rural America is if you want to look at rural poverty, if you want to look at stagnation and growth, we can talk about why that's happening, but obviously investment in rural America was a big motivator for 2155. We think that may bring some investment back, but I think we need to jumpstart that investment. And so I'm interested in your perspectives, and maybe you can come in and just talk.
I would agree with that.
We'll have a
also,
debate.
things like broadband and rural
Right.
communities, these are all vital things
Right.
that we have.
We're
done
going
a
to
lot of work
debate a farm bill that has rural economic development. I want to turn to money market reforms and 1117. Mr. Daniel, I was taken by your analysis of what the SEC rules have cost state and local entities that live off investment income. And obviously the SEC has disagreed. That's been long the debate here. And I'm wondering, when the SEC adopted the floating NAV rule in 14, their analysis suggested that the impact on the market would be minimal. I mean, they just didn't see that would have a big impact. And I think you're arguing the market has moved since implementation of this rule and left some people behind that they didn't think would be left behind, right?
Senator Heitkamp, that's correct. At the City of Albuquerque, like many of our medium and small-sized peers, we provide a plethora of services. We provide airport services, refuse, transit, cultural services, family and community services, and a host of other things. And some of our peers provide even more than that. We as finance officers consider ourselves enablers of those types of services. With capital being at a limited, it's vital for us to be able to have to gain as much safe investment income and to be able to finance through short-term debt offerings at as low a rate as possible to help finance these services. What has happened is that the decreased income from us having to shift into government funds for investments by 25 basis points or more, and the increased cost of us having to move to fixed rate debt has squeezed our ability to fund these types of services.
Are there other factors in this shift when you analyze what that when you look at it? Obviously, one there is a concern that we have in this committee, or we wouldn't be hearing this bill to analyze this. But have you seen other factors that may have driven that shift, like
Senator,
tax reform, like
Senator Heitkamp, from my perspective, the cause is primarily from the floating NAV rule. The 2010 amendments to Rule 2A7, as stated previously, provided higher quality, lower maturity, and the ability to stabilize money market funds. From 2008 until 2016, when these amendments went into effect, the industry was very stable. The prime funds, which we were investing in, we consider a very safe vehicle for public funds investment. And so with us not having access to those, it has really squeezed our ability to provide public services and infrastructure.
Well, obviously, we want to be good partners with state and local government, want to better understand this issue. And so thank you so much for your testimony. Thank you all for appearing on these bills. And thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I guess Ranking Member, for holding this hearing.
Senator